Good morning. Hi, it's Kerrie from Conversations at Kerrie's Korner. Today is Wednesday, the 26th of March. Spring is sprung, guys. Here in Houston, we're in the 80s already, and that means it's probably going to be a miserably hot summer. But I love spring. I'm definitely into spring attire today. I'm wearing one of my mother's most favorite colors, lilac. And so, good morning. Thank you for joining me at Conversations at Kerrie's Korner. This podcast is all about talking about the challenges that we all face in our society, whether it be personally, professionally, politically. Everything is on the table. Anything can be discussed as long as it's done respectfully and listening to each other's opinions. And we can disagree. We should disagree. We're all not going to agree on everything. But coming to a place of neutrality where we can disagree and respect each other's opinions because we disagree, well, that's what this is all about. Because that's truly where we can change what's happening in our world, locally, internationally, and globally. And talking to each other is how we do that. That's how true change starts, is with conversation. The podcast was an inspiration literally from our last election. In the United States, we are so tremendously divided. And I realize that more and more after every single social media post, just how much we are divided. And so I thought, well, maybe it's time to start a podcast where we can communicate about things that we probably weren't going to disagree with, but things that affect all of us. And maybe we can start turning the tide where we can get back to talking to each other. I mean, really talking to each other. And the thing that came to mind immediately, when I was a little girl and I first came to this country, my family and I traveled around a lot. My dad was a professional golfer. And so we traveled a lot and we stopped at a lot of diners. And I can remember going into those wonderful diners and thinking, oh my God, they're so beautiful. All of the chrome and the colors and the people on roller skates. Coming from Australia, we didn't have those sorts of things. And I was taken back how beautiful they were. And I can remember, especially my mom, having conversations with people. My mom never knew a stranger. She immediately became friends with anybody she talked to. And I can remember her literally sitting down, having a cup of coffee or a sandwich, having a conversation and walking out with a friend or a different idea or position or thought. And that's what I kept going back to when I was thinking about, well, what's the mental picture of Conversations with Kerrie's Korner? And that's it. One of those beautiful diners where you could go in, sit down, have coffee or brunch or breakfast or whatever, and come out feeling like you made a friend or you have a different opinion that you might have had when you walked in the door. So that's what this is all about. Now, my background is not a diner, of course. But that mental picture is what I go to when I film my podcasts here. And today I want to talk about a subject that we all deal with. And it's not a pleasant one. For me anyways. It may be pleasant for you. I don't know. But I think we're all pretty much on the same page here where we want to pull our hair out when it's dealing with banks. Because they fee us to death. And it's our money. We give it to them as the caretakers of our money, right? Because you can't do anything in the United States, really anywhere in the world anymore, unless you have a bank account. You got to have credit, you got to have a bank account, you got to have identity, you got to have a driver's license, you got to have all these things. So it's not their money, it's our money. And we give it to them as caretakers of our money. For our checking accounts, our savings accounts, our retirement accounts, our mortgage accounts, our kids' loans account. I mean, the banks infiltrate our lives. And we have to have them if you want to do anything. I'm a business owner. If I don't have a bank, forget it. I can't get anything started for my business. I've been in business for myself since 2010. And I'm telling you, if you don't have banks, you can't run a business. But they fee you to death. They literally fee you to death. And I recently had a conversation with a friend of mine, and I realized when it all changed, I mean drastically changed, where you couldn't even put cash down for closing on a house. If you wanted to go buy a house with cash, do you know how hard that is? It's almost impossible. And the reason it's impossible is because of the Frank-Todd Banking Act that was implemented by Obama. Since that moment, it all changed. That's when the banks started charging you for insurance policies if you didn't put X amount of dollars down on your house. If you had cash, you had to put the cash in the bank and you had to let it sit there for 3 months so the closing company could see that it was in a bank. You just can't go in and plop down $10,000, which is what I tried to do. I was saving money, paying myself, and that was my salary. Instead of spending it, I was putting it away, setting it aside, because my husband and I were looking for a house. And we knew we were saving for our down payment. But you can't use cash on a house as a down payment. They won't take it. And I'm like, what? What do you mean you don't? Hello? It's cash. That's what the world is based on, is cash. Not anymore. And that Banking Act has caused more issues for more people. And I really hope our government overturns that. I really do. It's making it impossible for young people to buy a home, as well as a horrible economy, which we've had for leadership for 12 out of the last 16 years, which has been just disgraceful and below what the American standard is. 2 divisive presidents who completely and totally turned this country in the wrong direction. Now we may have a chance. It's going in the right direction, whether you agree with him or you don't agree with him. There are plenty of people on both sides. But you cannot dispute the one thing that drives this president is his desire to make lives better for the American people. That's what his whole premise is. And for the life of me, I cannot understand why that causes so much hatred in this country. His whole purpose is to make your life and my life better. And I pray that one of the things that he addresses is the banks. The banks charging of ridiculous fees for being the caretaker of our money, the fees that are charged, the banks that run all the credit cards that charge 39% interest. There is no way ever anybody would get out of massive debt with that kind of 39% interest rate. I think that needs to be completely overhauled. I think the credit card systems need to be completely overhauled. And I think the banks need to be made more accountable. And the way you do that is by lessening their power, lessening the fees that they're allowed to charge. I mean, think about it for a second. You've got an overdraft protection on your account, and to use your own money, which you set up as an overdraft for your checking account, they're going to charge you $34 to draft from your overdraft protection to cover a check or a debit that just come through your checking account, and it's your own money. And they're charging you $34 to do that. What does it take? A second? 2 seconds maybe? I don't know anybody that's making that kind of money per hour. Not even famous entertainers make $34 a second for what they do. But the banks do. And we all just continue to allow it to happen. Why? Why are we allowing it? Why aren't we saying to our our local, state, and national officials, we're done with this. You need to repeal that enactment from Obama And if you need to overhaul the entire system, please do it, because the American people are drowning in fees and high interest credit rates, high interest credit card rates, not to mention rates on their homes too. It's all got to be redone. The entire banking system and banks need to be held more accountable. And then, God forbid, that you actually have a problem in your account. Like I use my personal account to fund my retirement. I actually go in every month and I make a transfer. I'm saving money from my checking to my IRA. Oh, but then all of a sudden, I have, instead of one transaction per month, I have 10. And nobody can tell me how it happened. Nobody can tell me how it happened except to say to me, well, you must have given your login information to a friend or your spouse. No. Nobody uses that login because it's designed specifically for that function, and I'm the only one that can do it because the bank told me to set it up that way. But yet they cannot tell me why there are, instead of one transaction, why in this month there are 10. And nobody can tell me. And when you talk to somebody, you're talking to somebody in the Philippines, which drives me insane, because they don't understand what's going on here or how our society lives. And they say to you, oh, well, yes, there's a problem. And, oh, yes, there's $700 missing, when it's from one bank account to the other bank account, but yet they can't figure it out, nor can they correct the problem and do this massive big investigation, which could take them 10 days to 2 weeks. So they have my money in the wrong account, and they can't transfer it until they figure out why their own system created 10 transactions instead of one. And we wonder why. We hate banks. I hate banks because there's never an answer. No one can ever help you. You have to go from department to department to department, and every single time you do that, you've got to answer the same ridiculous, stupid questions that you answered the moment they picked up the phone. And it takes you an hour, if you're lucky. It's so out of control. The whole system needs to be completely and totally revamped. And the banks need to be put under control, because they are out of control. They are out of control with the fees they charge, the interest that they charge, and just the entire way our banking system has evolved, because it is not consumer friendly. And after all, we're talking about our money, not theirs. So why do we have to wait 10 to 14 days? Because their systems caused a massive error. And there's no accountability. The banks have no accountability. They hold you accountable, but they have no accountability on their end. And we as consumers, we're stuck, because we have to have them or we can't operate our daily lives. Because as we've all seen, cash is fast becoming obsolete. So we are going to always be at the behest or at the mercy of a bank or an automated system to get our own money. How many people do you know that still get an actual paycheck, an actual check, and not an automatic deposit? What happens if the automatic deposit doesn't work properly and you don't get your money and you can't pay your bills? Then you have to go through this long, drawn-out process of contacting your employer. The employer has to write a letter. Then you have to take a letter to the bank and the other people because your paycheck didn't arrive, and because so many things now have to be put on auto pay. All of those things bounced, and the bank charged you $34 for every single one of those return checks when it wasn't your fault to begin with. But do they care? No, of course they don't. I don't know what the solution is, but I know I'm not the only one. I have 3 kids, and I hear the same thing from them. So that tells me that every single family in this country has to deal with banks, and they get just as frustrated as my husband and I do. You know, we're reasonable people, and when a mistake happens, all you have to do is say, yeah, there was a mistake. We'll get it corrected. We'll get the money back in your account. And then on the back end, we'll make sure that we figure out what happened so it doesn't happen again. After all, it is my money, not theirs. Do you feel the same way? I bet you do. So we got to start standing up and demanding change. It's the only way it's going to happen. If we're complacent and we don't speak up, then how are we ever going to change a system that is not consumer friendly? It's not by any stretch of the imagination. It's not friendly on any way. And especially when you have such big bills associated in your checking account, like your mortgage and your insurance and your car payments and all these other things, for them to make a mistake and then not live up to it and expect you to float everything for 10 days when you don't have that fund availability, that's just not okay. And we've got to figure out as consumers a way to bring this to the attention of our law enforcement, our government, our local, state, and federal officials, so we can figure out a way to change this system, because it's just not working. And it wastes so much time. In the last 2 days, my husband and I have been on the phone for 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours of lost time that we now have to work into the evening just to stay up with our day-to-day responsibilities. And do they even ask about that? No. Because they just don't care. And this is why banks are hated so much, because they have lost the most important part about their job, customer service, because they don't care. They're big enough and they know that the public has to have it, and so therefore they don't care. So we as a society have to fix it. We have to make them accountable in some way. I don't know what the solution is. I have no clue, but I'm sure there are some very intelligent people that I hope will see this and will start the process to get it changed. Because we all work really hard for our money. Why should we have to fight for it with the custodian of our money? That's not okay. They're not working for it. We are. If you got any solutions, I'd love to hear them. I really would. Because this is a area that affects every person's life, because you got to have them. You can't get anything done without them. And we've got to figure a way to figure this mess out. Too many people are spending way too much money every month on fees and interest. Just think about how much you've spent in the last month on fees and interest, and then multiply that nationally. It's a staggering amount of lost wages because of bank problems. Bank problems and lost manpower hours trying to figure out how to fix the problem. And we never get reimbursed, do we? No, we don't. We have to make them have some sort of skin in the game. I don't know what the solution is, but I pray there are some very intelligent people out there in this amazing country that do and are willing to step up and go to our local, state, and national officials and ask for or present an alternative or a solution. Do you have it? I don't. And it's okay that I don't, but maybe you do. So maybe now's the time to stand up and say, oh, I do have a solution. Let's see if... Well, that's it for us today. Conversations at Kerrie's Corner on this beautiful spring day from the Houston area. I hope wherever you are having a splendid spring and that you have a very, very productive week. Again, Conversations at Kerrie's Corner, it's just all about putting on the table subjects that we can all talk about and maybe come together to make some true change, because that's really where it starts, is us having a conversation. We can do it too, rationally, intelligently, and respectfully, calmly with each other, if we just make a commitment to do that and listen to what each other has to say, because that's how we make change happen, is by talking about it, listening to each other, and then coming up with some sort of solution. Let's get back to the table and start talking to each other. That's how we really are going to fix the terrible divide in our country. And I believe we can do it. This is the greatest country on earth. We've proved that time and time again. So let's figure out how to fix this huge divide so our country can be here for millennia to come, for our ancestors, for our children, their children, and their children. It's worth it. God bless you on this Wednesday. Hope you have a fabulous day. Get out there, by the way, and hit your grand slam today, whatever that is, whatever industry you're in. Make it happen. Believe in yourself. You are your best and most important supporter. You can do anything you want if you put your mind to it with hard work, faith, love, and dedication. Anything is possible. Anything. And never, 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 never let your age stop you from chasing your goals and your dreams. Even if you're 90 and there's something that you haven't done yet, go do it. What are you waiting for? You can. More now than ever in our society, anything is possible at any age if you're willing to work for it. Because 9 times out of 10, it's just not going to come in your lap. You got to work for it. So we'll see you the next time here at Conversations at Kerrie's Corner. And the next time you're out on the road traveling, look for those amazing diners. Stop in and have a cup of coffee and think about Conversations at Kerrie's Corner, because this is where true change can start, by just listening to each other, respecting each other's opinions, and coming up with solutions together. We can fix it. I believe in that. God bless, and we'll see you the next time. This is Kerrie from Conversations at Kerrie's Corner. God bless everyone.